Okay, that is the first five measures. Now you'll notice at the very beginning it starts off with the words with expression. For me, that's just a good indication that you really don't need to count this piece. This is a good piece where if you just listen to the recording I gave you, just I guess very freely. You'll notice I use a lot of fermatas. If you look in measures 2, 4, and let's see, measure 7, down in measure 9, measure 11. The next line, I use it twice. I use it all over the place. And I use those a lot just, anytime when I say with expression, really means you just don't have to do a whole lot of counting. So I just played up to measure 5. Let me do that again. There's my first fermata over that D. Like I said, just play it freely. You can hold that as long as you want. There's another one. And you notice how I drag it a lot. If I was going to play this in perfect rhythm, it would be very mechanical. But let me try to do that. Let me play just those first 5 measures, and I'll just try to be very in time. And I think it's going to take a lot away from it. But I haven't tried this, so let me try this. Now, I might play it like that in time as if I was playing this at church and I knew people were going to sing along. But if I was going to do this as a solo or really just for my own enjoyment, I like all of those pauses, and I like the places where I just kind of drag the rhythm. So let me do that again, just with expression. Now, you don't have to hold those fermatas as long as I do. You don't have to drag it like I do. If you do want to play it more up, in time, you can do that. I guess the one thing, like I said, when I use the word with expression, I like the freedom at times, especially if I'm doing a solo. I like the freedom at times to just, kind of take liberties with the rhythm. And this is a perfect song to do that, especially if you're doing it as a solo. If you have people singing along, you probably can't get away with that because, people would be all over the place. All right, so just kind of looking at the chord symbols. The first, if you go from measures 2 through 6, so I'll just go through the chords. So you have B flat. In fact, that first B flat, I do a broken chord. And then the B flat 7 inverted. Then you have the E flat. I do just a little bit of a broken chord there in the 2/4 measure. Down on line 2, I just do that's really just a simple broken chord on the E flat chord. We have our E flat diminished. And a diminished chord is really just, so here's our E minor 7th. If you lower the 5th and the 7th a half step, that makes it a fully diminished 7th chord. And then we're back to a B flat chord, D minor inverted, and then an F major chord. So that's at the end of measure 5. Measure 6, so measures 2 through 5, oh actually measures 2 through 5 is just the same as measures 6 through 10. So the chord progression repeats itself, okay? So let me say that again. Measures 2 through 6 just repeat when you get from measure 7 through 10. So if you look at measure 2 starts off with the B flat broken chord, and then the B flat 7, and then to the E flat. Well, all of that starts over again on measure 7. So measure 7, there's the B flat broken chord, the B flat 7, the E flat, measure 8, there's our E flat run in measure 9, which is the same as in measure 4. And then that all ends at measure 10. And then measure 11 is basically your crossover measure. That's basically the end of the verse and the beginning of the chorus. So half of that measure is just the end of the verse, and then the second half kind of kicks you into the chorus. Now, the nice thing about hymns, hymns are usually anywhere from 16 measures. Sometimes there'll be 20, sometimes there'll be 24. This song here, How Great Thou Art, is basically 24 measures, and then every time you go through the entire song, that's just another 24 measures. So this song, leaving out the first measure, which is the pickup notes, and I'm just kind of thinking the chord progression. So basically this song, I only kind of gave you 2 times through, so you should have roughly 48 measures. So basically the first, and actually if you look at this song, the verse part is really just 5 measures that repeats. And then when you get to the chorus, so if you look at measure 11, so the end of line 3, if you look at measure 11, you have a double bar there, and that's where your chorus begins. So that's the measure I call the crossover, because half of it's the verse, half of it leads into the chorus. But chord progression wise, your chord progression for the chorus starts at measure number 12. So if you look at that, so let me play the chorus here. Okay, so right there is where the first part of the chorus ends, and then it just kind of picks up again. And that, well actually. So basically you have measures 12, 13, 14, and 15. And you could say measure 16 is kind of the crossover measure for the middle of the chorus, and then it picks up again at the end of 16. And then here's the second half of the chorus. Now here's where it ends, because you need a phrase to kind of get you back into the verse. And then at measure 24, once again, that's the crossover measure. It's kind of the end of the chorus, but really more so the beginning of the next verse. And you'll probably notice, I don't know if you've gotten up to the second half of this yet, which I'll probably cover that in the next video. But the second half, the second time through, and I believe there's 4 times through this song. And I guess each time I could have done a little bit more. But since this is the first song we're doing together, I kind of wanted to just, go through it twice. But I definitely wanted the second time through to be a little more, to have a few more embellishments than the first time through. Even the first time through, I probably wouldn't have done all those runs. But I wanted the first time through to be, to give you a little bit more to it. But first time through, if I was going to give you a full arrangement 4 times through, the first time through I might have just done simple chords. Maybe a little bit of broken chord, but I would have kept it very simple. Probably something like that. And then maybe the second time through, I would have given you what I gave here for the first time. But either way, I kind of wanted to make it a little more exciting at the beginning here. And we can always go back and do that. I can always, if you want a longer arrangement, I can do that. But if you know the chords, so if you wanted to do that, let me go through the chords, just kind of what I would do. I would do a B flat. So looking at measure 2, I would do a B flat in root position. I probably wouldn't do any broken chord. I would do the B flat 7. So here's your 2/4 measure. And I should probably tell you, the original version of this song was straight 4/4 time. But I actually added, so I actually took a lot of liberties with the rhythm here, as you can see. But measure 3, I added 2/4. Measure 8, I added a measure 2/4. Because if you go back to the original version, this part here was actually 3 and 4 and, but the measure before that, I was just kind of feeling it a little different. So, in fact, I can make a copy of the original melody, just so you can kind of see the difference. In fact, I'll scan it and I'll upload that to your webpage, just so you can kind of see what I started with and then, kind of what the finished product was. So that's our chord progression for the verse. The verse is really just 5 measures that repeats. Measure 11 is the crossover, and then you have your chorus. Once again, that broken chord that I did there at measure 12. Once again, that's just a broken chord run on a B flat chord. So in the left hand, I'm looking at the video here. You probably can only see part of my hand here. So let me move it up. So here's your B flat chord, okay? I'm getting rid of the third and then adding, so I basically have a B flat octave and then the fifth in the middle, okay? So I'm just going to move that down an octave, okay? So your run starts with that, I call that a 1-5-1, your root, your fifth, and your octave, which 8 and 1 are the same. So there's your 1-5-1, and here's an inverted B flat chord, okay? So here's your B flat chord in root position, B flat D, F. I'm just going to take the B flat and put it on top, okay? So that's basically going to be my run. Here's my root, fifth, root, and then I'm going to take that chord, I'm going to do a run here, and then I'm going to move it up. Same inversion. Okay, so here it is. And I basically did the same thing with the E flat chord. So if you actually go back to measure 4, okay, so here's my E flat chord. I think you can just see that on the video. So here's my E flat chord. I get rid of the middle note and I double up on the E flat. So I have my octave here. Here's my fifth in the middle. So I'm just going to take that, move it down. That's going to start my run. And then here's my inverted E flat chord. So here's my E flat chord in root position, E flat, G, B flat. In fact, I play this chord exactly like this in measure 3. And then, of course, the run occurs in measure 4 on the same chord. So I'm going to take the root note and put it on top. Okay? So there's my inverted E flat chord, and I basically just do that same inversion here and then here. Okay? So here's my 1-5-1. And then here's my E flat inverted chord, and then I do the same thing here. Same notes, same inversion. Okay, fancy little trick with broken chords. Now, when I was a kid, I had to do my scales, and then after the scale, I had to do the broken chord. Now, my teacher made me do. So I'd have to do the inversion. So I'll do just with one hand. I'll do left hand. So I would have to do root position, and then I would have to move up. And then, of course, he'd make me go backwards. And then he'd make me do it with my right hand. And I'm gonna run out of real estate here. But I basically do the same. When I was a kid, I had to do this for 13 years as a kid. So even though my teacher didn't really focus on chords, he focused a lot on scales and broken chords. So I don't know where you are with chords. But the main part of the way I teach, everything is centered around chords. I wouldn't, if I didn't know chords, I would not be able to arrange these songs using chords and broken chords. In fact, before I learned chords, music was just a bunch of dots and lines on paper. So learning chords is definitely a huge advantage. When if you truly want to understand what's going on in music, understanding what broken chords are, what block chords are, the difference between an inversion and root position, and obviously when you get to seventh chords, it gets a little bit more complicated. But even if you just reacquainted yourself with all of the major chords and root position, because I use that quite a bit because, I use that 1-5-1 all the time. or I'll use a variation of that where I'll go the 1, the 5, and then I'll take that middle note of the chord and then I'll put that on the top. So if we did that here in measure 2, well, actually we can't really do that there because you'd be doubling up on that melody note. But either way, that 1, 5, 1, I use it in measure 2 on the B flat chord. I use it in measure 4 on the E flat chord. Measure 6 and 7, once again, same broken chord on the B flat. When you get down to measure 12, well actually, yeah, measure 12, that starts my run on the B flat. There's your 1, 5, 1. In measure 13, there's your 1, 5, 1, and then I just go up and finish the chord to do that broken chord. Let's see, measure 15, the last measure of page 1, there's a 1, 5, 1 on the F chord. In that same measure, I just do the root and 5th on the E flat. Page 2, measure 16, there's your 1, 5, 1 on the B flat. Measure 17, the 1, 5, 1, same chord, down an octave. So I use that quite a bit, and you could say I even overuse it. So that's just kind of a little bit of my thought process for the first half of How Great Thou Art. Once again, don't worry so much about the rhythm. This is a song that really allows you to, you know, as I say at the beginning, with expression. And if you notice, I don't even play the run there in time, because as I get near the top, I slow it down. Okay, so right there on measure 5, on beat 2, I do that B flat, the single note B flat. I extend that for longer than a quarter note, so you could say I put a fermata there. Every time I come in with that little riff, I drag it. So, as you can see, with expression, really just means taking a lot of liberties with the rhythm. And it just gives you, you know, the ability to take a lot of liberties. And this is the perfect song to do that. All right, so that's the first half. The next video I will get in. I'll start at measure 25 and I'll go through some of my thought processes on the embellishments. If you have any questions, you know, definitely feel free to email me. If I move too fast or too slow in this, or if there's something I didn't cover that you wanted me to cover, let me know that. Just so, you know, I can give you exactly what you're looking for in these online lessons. But as you can see, I kind of like to talk about chords a lot, because if you understand chords, you really do understand what the center of music, you know, that's, I guess, chords are the inner workings of how, you know, songs work. If you understand chords, then it's a lot easier to do, you know, just a simple, you know, embellishment like that. Or even just, you know, like down in measure 13. That entire left-hand part follows the chord perfectly. If you look at measure 2, that's C, so if the B flat is the octave 1 or 8, that C would be the 9th. I like to, you know, as much as I like to use the 1-5-1, I like to use the ninth quite a bit as well. Now, when you use the ninth, you have to do it in such a way. Now, you can't see what I'm doing with the pedal, but so measure 6 or measure 2, they're the same. So if you're looking at measure 2, now I have the pedal down. I play the C, and then when I go to play the D, I come off the pedal, so you can't hear the C anymore. But if you notice, I left all of these notes down, and I left that. All of the notes that I'm holding right now are notes out of the B flat chord. If I kept the C, so this time I'll leave the pedal down. So you kind of hear that C ringing in there, and it's a little bit of a clash. Some people like that. So I came off the pedal, so I don't like to hear the ninth. I don't like to hear it ring with the chord, but I like to hear it in there for just a little bit. But if you like it, you can just kind of leave the pedal down. Alright, so that's the first half of the song. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I will see you in the next video. Okay? Take care.